I think it's safe to say that Sonic games have never been known for their consistent quality. I think there's more good than bad, but it's undoubtedly worse than other series about keeping a good flow of good games, no matter what era you look at. As a matter of fact, I would say that for the first year of the franchise's existence, there just weren't any good games. But that would all change with the release of Sonic 2. The first thing you'll notice upon starting up Sonic 2 is the addition of a brand new character. Miles Tails Prower, Tails the Fox, whatever you want to call him. He's the first of Sonic's many friends. His first appearance was technically one game ago with the 8-bit version of Sonic 2, but Tails is too good a character to acknowledge alongside that dumpster fire. I don't think that Tails is a particularly noteworthy character in these early games. He really starts hitting his stride into 3D games, where they make more of an effort to flesh him out with a character arc. But his appearance here and in Sonic 3 are important to lay the groundwork to make the story in Sonic Adventure so good. For now though, he's only here to justify a half-baked multiplayer mode. Though he's a bit weird from a story perspective, the Japanese manual frames it as Sonic just letting Tails do his own thing, which just makes me think that he isn't really aware of Tails throughout the game. Other than that, the story tries to establish real lore about the Chaos Emeralds, which were only just vaguely strong gems before, though this lore wasn't in the forefront until arguably Sonic 3 and not expanded on until Sonic Adventure. Emerald Hill, the first of many Green Hill likes. I will say, I think that Emerald Hill has less personality than Green Hill, if that makes sense. Green Hill had a lot of elements that made it feel like a real place within the world. This just feels like a generic forest. Despite that, I actually think that their level design is better than Green Hill. You have to understand, the alternate routes in Green Hill could serve to be more in your face. They're not hard to find, but a player might not be able to identify them on a first time playthrough. Emerald Hill, on the other hand, puts the alternate pathways right in your way. It's still pretty easy to get through the stage, but I think Emerald Hill does a better job at teaching you what skill expression in Sonic games is than Green Hill. You discover the alternate paths in Green Hill because it's the 5th time you've been in this level and you're just ticking around. In Emerald Hill, the game shows you right away what Sonic's capable of doing. And hey, speaking of Sonic's capabilities, he's got a new move in this game. The Spin Dash is a natural evolution of Sonic's ability to gain speed by rolling down slopes, now allowing Sonic to gain high amounts of speed almost instantly. A side effect is more easily allowing the player to gain speed after getting a hit. I don't think I would call this fixing a problem, as having to build up your speed again probably should be a punishment for getting hit. I genuinely don't know how to feel about this. I will say that the boss here is inferior to the boss in Green Hill. The Egg Wrecker forced the player to learn how Sonic's jump works. This drill machine is pretty mindless to deal with, all things considered, and that's not even mentioning the fact they get an invincibility monitor right before the fight. Holy shit, these are terrible. Sonic 2's special stages seem to be beloved over at Sega, considering the amount of games they'll go on to appear in. And I, for the life of me, cannot fathom why. I'm not a huge fan of how you get there either. Like before, you get 50 rings. Unlike Sonic 1, where you just had to get to the end of an act with them, you have to take them to a checkpoint. Sounds nice, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. You have to come to a full stop, sometimes backtracking because you blitz right past it. When you get out of the stages themselves, whether you get to the end one or not, you'll lose all your rings. The stages themselves, like I said, are absolutely terrible. The camera's obsessed with moving in all kinds of directions, and it makes it unnecessarily hard to see what's ahead of you and react on time. This means that if you want to beat these stages, you have to go almost entirely on memory. This can also be an issue in the levels, but most Sonic games will have the camera pulled back to a point where you can reasonably react to what's coming. Here, you just can't. For 7th special stage, you have to deal with this utter bullshit. Get all Chaos Emeralds and you'll get access to Super Sonic. Super Sonic is faster, has a higher jump, and is immune to all forms of damage outside of pits, drowning, being crushed, and crippling gambling debt. Super Sonic can be detrimental for more precise platforming challenges, but it's not like you have much of a choice. Today, Super Sonic was commonly activated by pressing the jump button twice, but here, jumping at all puts you into the super state. This can be annoying, especially when the music gets replaced by a very short track that loops a lot and is probably worse than the stage music. Emerald Hill really only exists because the series themes dictate that these games should start out in a grassy area. Chemical Plant is where Sonic 2 really starts to come together. It's actually pretty similar to Sonic 1's Marble Zone. It sets the standard for the rest of the game, and unlike Marble Zone, that standard is pretty damn good. The majority of Sonic 1 levels are an absolute slog, making Marble Zone perfect for introducing you to the game. Chemical Plant, on the other hand, is a lot like Sonic 2. It's fun. Unlike Marble Zone's gimmicks, which only serve to halt you in your tracks, Chemical Plant has quick bursts of speed and obstacles that ask you to go fast rather than practically walking through the stage. Even the infamous water section, which, by the way, is called Mega Mac, isn't that much of an issue. It's not that bad as long as you don't panic. What I do find an issue with is the amount of ways you can fall back into the Mega Mac after you pass the section. And unrelated to the section, but I find that these jump pads don't always perform how you would expect them to. I think that if I run onto them, I should get sent upwards. The way they are, you need to jump on them exactly for them to take effect. The boss here is actually pretty interesting in how it forces you to stay in one small spot, but a glitch involving the boss's main attack kind of stops me from engaging with it, considering how easy it is to do. You ever forget this game has a water level? Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that Aquatic Ruin is the pinnacle of level design. If anything, I think it's just fine. I do think that it's annoying how hidden the enemies here are. Sometimes they pop out from behind walls, so basically nowhere, and sometimes they're hidden behind this neat but admittedly intrusive effect. It's honestly hard to think about things to say about Aquatic Ruin, just because it doesn't really have any stage gimmicks to call its own. There's not really anything here that can't be found elsewhere in the series or even in this game. I will say that the water doesn't feel like it's slowing Sonic down as much as it did in previous games, so that's something. But yeah, it honestly just feels like this level only exists for the sake of having a water level. At least the boss is somewhat interesting. You can jump on the pillars early to safely hit Eggman, or you can stay on the ground and use the statue's arrows to get to him. That's it. There's like options, is all. Would y'all get me if I said that I'm not fond of casino levels? I find that they halt you far more often than they speed you up. Not to the degree of the average Sonic 1 level, but it feels like I can't go more than a couple of feet in Casino Night without being halted by a box getting in my way or having to go in an elevator. There's just not very much pure Sonic gameplay in this, or really any level of this theme. I understand the appeal of leaning hard into the pinball aspect of Sonic gameplay for a level, but I don't like how often speed is sacrificed for this approach. The pinball aspect is there in pretty much every other level. It's a core element of Sonic's design as a platformer, but it's never the main focus. The pinball elements are always just a tool so that Sonic can go as fast as possible, but not here. Here is a detriment, because the entire level is centered around the pinball aspects. The only elements of speed that you'll get here are brief opportunities to spin dash. I don't want to dick around and get points. I want to find opportunities and use my surroundings to go fast. That's where Sonic exceeds as a game, not when I'm being halted like this. This slower approach is not great for the levels. I don't mind it for the boss though. Sonic bosses, especially 2D ones, aren't exactly known for their complexity, so I like bosses like this that ask you to really utilize Sonic's kit to attack. There's a lot of spectacle on the hilltop. It's probably the perfect ideal for a Sonic level. There are plenty of opportunities to go fast, but also plenty of things to halt you. It really encourages you to learn the level so that you can manage and maintain your speed while dealing with everything being thrown at you. It's a really solid level. If it weren't so generic in theming, I have no doubt that it would be up there with Chemical Plant, or at least Soil Ocean in terms of iconicity. The rising lava sections within the mountain are some of the most memorable in the entire game, yet I feel like too many people overlook or write off this zone entirely. Then again, there probably isn't much you can say about it. It's just a solid level, and maybe its good aspects are overshadowed for some people by its failings. These seesaws return from Sonic 1, and I'm still not a fan. I'm sorry, but there's not much you can do to make me like a mechanic that I have to stop in my tracks to engage with. And remember when I mentioned bosses lacking complexity? This one's pretty mindless. As a matter of fact, I probably run out of footage since the boss goes by so quickly. If I describe Mystic Cave to you gimmick by gimmick, it would sound like a terrible level, the likes of which not seen since Sonic 1. Vines and levers that force you to stop everything to interact with them, moving boxes that can easily trap you, spike traps of varying speeds, but it all flows beautifully. Mystic Cave Zone is a level that is only as fast or slow as you make it. Yes, all the mechanics here work against you. They force you to stop and platform, or wait for the way to be clear, but not if you're good at the game. You can also blitz right through the stage. You can play as if nothing was even there at all. I've probably said this a million times already, and will continue to say it a million more times, but this is what Sonic 2 is to me. What Sonic is to me. Sucking shit and still having fun is so important to the level design of this series, even more so than staples like loop-de-loops and rings. It's the core appeal of Sonic. Whether it be mainline or spin-off, if a Sonic game doesn't have that aspect, then the game is bad. This boss is pretty bad though. Not a huge fan of hitboxes here. I can't quite tell when it's safe to attack him and when it's not. Oil Ocean is where the game's difficulty begins to pick up. I suppose the same could be said for Mystic Cave Zone, but if I can be honest, it's really not that bad. I didn't run into the pit at all this playthrough, therefore, skill issue. Oil Ocean, in comparison, has bad placed everywhere, just waiting to get you. Sure, these octopuses are easy enough to maneuver around, but these seahorses won't go so easy on you. There's a lot of things getting in your way here, really. From fans that push you back to a, well, ocean of oil at the bottom of the stage, acting like quicksand if you ever get stuck down there. There's a lot here to slow you down, but not like how Sonic 1 handled things. Getting slowed down here is a punishment for bad play, rather than just being part of the level. This is really the first time one of these games have actually been hard, rather than unfair. Although, well, it's not all glimmer and gold. The boss here is really bad. At a glance, it looks like one of those mindless bosses that you can just bounce on, but these hitboxes are all over the place. It's so hard to tell where I can safely bounce and what will hurt me. I ended up just jump spamming and that ended up working. Couldn't tell you why though. Did you know that Sonic 2 was originally going to be about time travel? Multiple zones were intended to be other zones to alternate time periods. Hilltop Zone was supposed to look like the past version of Emerald Hill Zone, which is why that zone has dinosaur badniks. Ultimately, due to Sonic 2's kind of messy development, those plans fell through, but it wouldn't be long until the idea was picked up again. More on that later. However, they still pay homage to that initial idea in the final game. They time traveled the level design for Sonic 2 back to Sonic 1 from Metropolis Zone. You ruined me, Sonic 2. After an entire game, 7 levels, almost 40 minutes of fun, fast levels in the same vein as Green Hill Zone, you give me Metropolis Zone. This is not a Sonic 2 level. This is a lost Sonic 1 level. As a matter of fact, Green Hill Zone isn't even a Sonic 1 level. It's a time-displaced Sonic 2 level. Both these games have opposite design mentalities across the entire game, and one outlier at either end. One at the beginning and one near the end. All 14 minutes that I spent in this level were absolutely miserable. It's rare for the worst part of the level to be the enemies. They're usually just small obstacles to keep you on your toes. But all 3 enemies found here are bullshit. Well, the stars aren't that bad, but they sure as hell aren't ignorable. These crabs have such huge hurt boxes and are crammed into such small spaces near the edge of ledges. And these goddamn praying mantises, they're also commonly placed near the edge of ledges, but their placement is more varied than the crabs. Regardless, they're so annoying to deal with. Its claws move at you in an awkward pattern that you will most likely get hit by. Sometimes you get thrown right into one without any time to react or see it coming. And then there's the length of this level. Unlike Sonic 1, this game only has 2 acts per zone instead of 3. I have no real opinion on this change. I didn't feel that 3 acts of Sonic 1's good zones really overstayed their welcome. It was really only a problem for the bad zones. And Metropolis is bad zone. Act 3 is the worst one. Checkpoints are placed awfully here. This act is structured like a set of challenges, with a checkpoint for each one. The problem is that you will probably only find the checkpoints if you fail once, because they're hidden for some reason. If you pass a section on the first try, then you'll skip the checkpoint entirely. If you don't have any rings, then fuck you, you have to do the last section again. All of this leads to the boss. This could have been good. It has a risk-reward aspect. You can go all in at an easier time getting hit, or you can can wait for him to make himself open. The problem is that playing it safe isn't safe at all. The jumps that you have to do here are so precise that you might as well not have any rings at all going in. What are we even doing here, man? Sky Chase sees our heroes pursuing Eggman and Sonic's playing the tornado. Levels of this ilk are often referred to as auto-scrollers, but the truth is that it's worse than an auto-scroller. At least I could trick myself into thinking I was going past a bridge zone. Sky Chase restricts you to only the front of the tornado. I'll give the level credit, you are required to press buttons in order to beat it. Okay, that's enough credit. At least spin dashing is pretty fun. Until the plane isn't able to keep up with you and you die. Yeah, no, this level is painfully boring and unfun. And no, this level concept isn't possible to make good for the same reason that all scrollers are impossible to make good in a Sonic game. I'm talking to you, Sonic Adventure, Pocket Adventure, Unleashed 4, Lost World, and Mania. Wing Fortress, sharing Sky Chase's sky theming and also being a one-act zone, is essentially Sky Chase Act 2. Perhaps you may think that I should have combined Sky Chase and Wing Fortress's sections. Shut up. This level is really close to being pretty good, but a couple of minor things ruin it. First off, there are a lot of pitfalls. I'm not surprised that a level taking place on an airship has bottomless pits, but these ones are out to get you. So many jumps are too easy to fall where you honestly really shouldn't, and then there are these booster things that 9 times out of 10 launch you into a pit. It's better to avoid them. This section here would be great if not for this thing acting like a red herring. I like that the game asks you to build up enough speed to make this jump, but it looks like the game wants you to use the booster. There's also one section that loops around near the beginning. Neat idea, but it's way too easy to end up back where you started and not where the game wants you to go. I usually find it easier to just damage boost through the fan. I really do see the vision that this level presents, but it's just not very good. I like the boss though. It teeters on the edge, asking you to maneuver pretty delicately through the spike platforms, but it's not unmanageable. The beam is a lot less noteworthy, but it does complement the platforms very well, boxing you into a corner and forcing you to dodge platforms in a smaller space. That's the last, kinda, proper level. It's time for Sonic 2's grand finale. Now, this is how you do a climax. I would prefer this zone to be a full level, mostly for the sake of hearing music longer, but this feels like the first time one of these games ended instead of just stopping. Previous games are climactic, but only in terms of difficulty for the bosses. Eggman still always got away, just like the end of every zone. It really does help the impact of the game when there's an overall goal for Eggman outside of get the Chaos Emeralds. The entire point of this game for Eggman was to establish the Death Egg, and now here we are, at the Death Egg Zone. I guess you could sort of apply this to Sonic 2 8-bit, which gives Sonic a goal beyond Stop Eggman, which was rescuing Tails. And well, yes, that does happen in the end. I feel like that's kind of undermined by Eggman escaping. This is the first time in series history where Eggman isn't seen fleeing. It really gives the final boss impact by not showing Eggman getting away, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Can you really blame me though? I wanted this music to play for more than 2 seconds. Much like this game's 8-bit counterpart, the penultimate boss is a robotic copy of Sonic. Mech Sonic looks a lot less stupid than Silver Sonic, and works a lot better for what I feel robotic Sonic copies should strive to be: sleek and intimidating. Mech Sonic can get in trouble, but goes down pretty easily if you know what you're doing. I was always amused by Eggman just watching this fight. He looks like the host of a reality show. Once Mecha Sonic is defeated, an unusually fast Eggman leads us to the final boss. The Death Egg robot, called Death Egg on Sonic Retro for some reason, is honestly pretty easy. Maybe it's because I'm not a kid in 1992, but I feel like the only reason this boss has any semblance of difficulty is the arbitrary lack of rings. Something I cannot say for Sonic 1's final boss. Wing Fortress's boss is way harder with rings. This is just hype moments and aura. The end of the game sees Sonic falling from space and is saved by Tails piloting the tornado. Forget all the Chaos Emeralds, Super Sonic simply flies alongside Tails. I honestly prefer the ending without the emeralds. If you remember what I said before, the manuals make it seem like Tails is on this adventure without Sonic realizing it. So this moment where Tails saves Sonic is like Tails cementing himself as someone worth paying attention to. I'd hesitate to call this an arc, that kind of thing wouldn't be seen until Sonic 3, but it is an effective character moment for Tails that kind of gets ruined if you go for the emeralds. Well, Well, that was Sonic 2. I had my issues with it, like how you can tell that this was the first game on Spin Dash, and they really dropped the ball at the end. But the ball was in their hands for so long, and they held it so high. This metaphor is getting away from me. Really, this game is so good that it kind of usurps the first game. The introduction of the Spin Dash, Tails, Supersonic, having a real story outside of Robotnik's causing problems again. Go stop him, Sonic. What does the first game have left to introduce? The iconicity of Green Hills though included. Outside of Green Hill, this game doesn't really build off of anything aside from Sonic 1. It just introduces new things that get built off on later. And that's okay, because there was almost nothing good to build on. And the one time they tried, it was awful. To be honest, if you want to understand the story progression of the series, Sonic 1 is kinda optional. The 7th Chaos Emerald being mysteriously absent from the first game is never explained beyond the 7th one just showed up right before Sonic 2. Hell, the classic trilogy is thought of as the Death Egg Saga, but that doesn't include Sonic 1. There are spin-off games more plot relevant than the first game. If you want to get into the Sonic series, then I would recommend picking up Sonic Shadow Generations. But if you want to get a feel for classic games, then I would recommend playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But if you want to see how the series' staple mechanics got their start, just skip Sonic 1 and go straight to this game. You won't regret it. A tier.